My name is Ansgar, and you see on the slides, usually I'm the co-speaker on this talk, but unfortunately my colleague Laura couldn't make it this time, so we decided that the topic is so, or seems for us so important that we want to do the talk anyway, and we are completely aware that it's not the best case to have a talk about diversity and then have another white man standing on the stage and giving this talk. So on this, so at this point of time, Laura sends greetings, and next time she will be on the stage again, but this time she couldn't make it. So we both work for a company in Germany called REWE Group. And it's quite a big, so just to give you some background where we're coming from, it's quite a big enterprise. So we have about 57 billion turnover. We have more than 300,000 employees working all over Europe, and we have about 15,000 shops running. And the company does basically food retail, but also active in tourism and do-it-yourself stores. The company was founded in 1927, and here you might see some brands. I already saw Billa as a local brand, which is one of our companies inside the store. Personally, I'm working in a digital hub, which was founded in 2014. It's a way smaller company inside this big enterprise, and we have about 150 developers working there, 500 people in total, and we do digital ideas and try to bring food retail forward. Mainly we do food delivery to the doorsteps. But this should be also only a small excursus to where we're coming from. And today we want to talk about STEM or STEAM and how to get kids and especially girls into these topics. So when we talk about STEM, we can usually talk also about STEAM. It's basically an acronym for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And where this A comes from, so you see it in one publication this way and the other way that way. And basically, the A in STEAM should remind us that we should not only use our logical brain, but we should also use our more artistic brain, and we should, when we solve problems, we should be aware of all our capabilities. So they decided to put the A into this acronym, and then you can use both terms the same way. Let's think about if we have a problem in there. And when I'm looking around, we might have. So when you look at studies from the OECD, you see that, and you ask kids what they expect to have a career in the future. Then it's more likely, way more likely, that boys expect a career in engineering or computer science than girls. And this is all over Europe the case. In our case, it's also in Germany the case that more than 4 times the boys expect a career in engineering or computer science than girls. So why is this a problem? And we think it should be in the best interest of our societies that kids can explore everything and that kids can try everything and find their professional careers and find their way into professional careers. And they should do this based on their abilities and based on their interests, and not on stereotypes provided by society, provided by the family, provided by school, or by everything around them. So if we do not have an equal number of boys and girls going into computer science, then we are missing about 50% of the potential of every society. With great ideas and great solutions we don't get because 50% of the society are not available. So the talk is a talk we do together. So this is not me on the picture. This is my colleague Laura on the picture. She found out it was taken in 88, 89. She was about 4 years old. and she was at her grandfather's home. And this is basically the start of her career. So this is what she identified as the start of her career. So when we think about, if everybody thinks about why are you here, not physically in Prague, but why are you software developers? And so for kids from the 70s and the 80s, it basically started this way. So you got a computer somewhere at your grandfather's, at your father's, at your mother's desk, and they let you play with it. So this is the way you start with computers. This was for me the case, and probably it was for a lot of people of you the case. So you got a computer, somehow got access to it, you want to use it, you want to play with it, and so you need to understand how this works. And this is the case, what happened here. And letting Laura play with this computer, her grandfather achieved two things. One happy, nerdy face, and guess what Laura does for a living today? Laura is a software developer, and she's programming since. So this is basically the way to start careers if you're at our age. The same applied for me. Unfortunately, there's no picture of me. I asked my parents if there is one, but we didn't find one at this age. And so it was basically the same thing. I started playing. There were no games. I had a C16+4 something from Commodore, and there were no games. So I had to try something on my own, and this is why I became a programmer. And when I ask all of you, how many of you did start in a similar way? Nearly all of you. So if you are above 30, this might be one case to start a computer science career. There's one more thing on this picture, and this is a question. So you see here Laura's Instagram account, and she's always searching. The picture is there, and she's always searching what game was it what she was playing. So if you find out, let her know. Her Twitter handle will be in the slides. Let her know if you find out what game it is on the screen. So basically all of us were influenced by someone around us. So we got access to a computer, and this is what we do as tribal animals. We are influenced by society, by families around us, by people around us, and by school. We are influenced by games we play. We are influenced by the media we see. And as tribal animals, we try to fit in. So this is what gives us security. This is what lets us perform best. If we feel safe in our tribe, and if we feel accepted, then we can perform best. So we have 4 points highlighted here, and we will talk about a few of them. So if you fit in, you can perform best, and the same applies now for your jobs. If you have a net of safety around your team and no one is complaining, you can perform way better than if everyone is complaining, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. And so also today you probably want to fit in. One thing we want to look at is video games. And when we have a look at what type of games or what devices use kids today to play video games, we found a study from 2017, and you can see boys usually equally use all of those devices. They use smartphones, computers, they use consoles like the PlayStation. But for girls, this seems to be a little bit different. And these are numbers from 2017. So girls mostly use their smartphone to play. And when we take this into account and have a look, so what we did is we did a search on the Google Play Store. It's available information for everyone, and we searched for boys. And what you can see, there's no special color in there. There are no special games in there. There are cars. There are even princesses and unicorns. And there are all kind of games. No special colors, no special games. There seems to be no targeting in this case. What do you think what happens when we search for girls in the Google Play Store? Pink, I heard it, yes. This is correct. And this is something which might be eye-opening. So when I click to the next slide and we look for girls, it's not only pink. It's all about nail polishing, cosmetics, and all the other princesses. There are way more princesses in there. There are way more unicorns in there. So you see, the game industry is already targeting girls to behave in a certain kind. And this is one of the things which made me afraid when I saw this. So I wasn't aware about this hard difference between the games, but this was kind of an eye-opener for me. So when we move away from the computer, kids shouldn't be always on the computer, and we move into STEM games, educational games. There's a category at Amazon for this. You can search for, and this makes it easy to find those things. We went through about 50 pages of search results in Amazon in this special category, and more than 50% of them were targeting, were in the first group. They were targeting clearly boys. There's a boy on the cover. There's no special targeting for girls or for both genders. Only 20–25% fall into the second group, and only those small amount of games targeting both genders. So there was a boy and a girl on the cover, at least. Even less didn't have any kid on the cover. So this might be the best choice, but right now this is only a small amount of games. And when you look in the far right column, you see that there are also educational and STEM games which are targeting girls. But again, those girls are in pink, they are shiny, and they are basically about perfume, cosmetics, and stuff like this. So the boys in the audience, the men in the audience, would you feel encouraged to probably with one of the games in the right column? Who would felt encouraged as a kid to play with those games? Probably no one. So think the other way around. Why should any girl at the age of 8 or of 12 feel encouraged to play with one of the games in the first column? So, and this is basically 50% of the first 50 pages of search results. So this is not only in the gaming industry, in the Google Play Store, but also the marketing agencies are targeting clearly for boys in STEM or in science gaming. So when we look at games, let's have a look at family and friends. When I remember correctly, nearly all of you raised their hands when I asked how did you get in contact with computer science. So most of you started gaming, had access to a computer, and started this way the career. So let me ask another question. In which family it was a female relative who owned this computer, or whose computer it was mainly? Who played on his or her mother's computer, who played on the computer of the aunt or something, a friend of the family? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you. So maybe a little bit more. So this is the other point. If we want to have role models for kids and for girls to go into science, computer science, and technology, there are no role models for them to follow. So there are no relatives working as engineers. And the other way around, there are no or nearly no males working as caretakers or in a kindergarten. So this is the other way around and applies for the same thing. So boys don't go into those career paths. We saw already that we label colors and toys by gender. So, of course, if there's a big machine as a toy, this needs to be for boys. If it's blue, this needs to be for boys. If it's for girls, it needs to be pink. And the other way around. So we already have different expectations to kids in a very, very early stage. Usually this happens at the age between 2 and 6, that kids get aware of this and that kids start trying to fit into those role models and stereotypes. Kids also hear jokes from their environment about stereotypes from the society, about stereotypes about games and how things do. So we found a commercial, and this clearly is a commercial. So we don't want to support the company, but we think this commercial makes a point. And you can search for it on YouTube. I think if you type in "run like a girl," you find this. And what they did is they ask adults do certain things. So they ask run like a girl, fight like a girl, throw like a girl. And this is, we don't have the moving pictures here, you can find them online, but you can see it's very affected. So they are running very weird, the man is fighting very weird, sorry. And also throwing, it's not a throwing performance she does there. So this is what adults do when you ask them, do something like a girl. And what do you think what happens when you ask kids about the same question? Do they behave different? A few of you think so. So let's have a look. Of course they do. They are not affected by stereotypes. So they are fighting like everyone would fight. She's running like everyone she would run. So she runs as fast as she can. And of course, she's throwing as far as she can and as far as she's able to throw something. So those kids didn't think about those stereotypes. They might have heard it already, but they don't think about it when you say so and when you ask them to do something in a special way. So they think I'm a girl, so if I should run like a girl, I run as fast as I can because this is what girls do. So we are influenced, and we have some kind of a vicious cycle here. So kids adapt to stereotypes, society observe kids, they start targeting those stereotypes, do everything in pink, and again, back society influences kids, kids adopt stereotypes, and so on and so on. So the thing is, when you ask companies, and these are not small research companies we found here, when you ask companies when will the gender pay gap be closed, Deloitte has a very optimistic estimation. They say it's about 2069, so it's about 50 years from now. The World Economic Forum, which is meeting once a year in Davos, they even think it will be close to more than 150 years from now. So, and this is the problem we are facing, especially in technology, we think. So, we need to speed this up. More than 100 years waiting shouldn't be in our interest to change things. So, what can we do to speed it up? Every one of us can be aware of those stereotypes and how you act, and everyone can consider what you say and what you do to your daughter, to your niece, to kids in the kindergarten, and you can encourage them to do differently. And of course, this is what we think you can compensate with positive discrimination. So thinking about quotas in everything you do, and this doesn't need to be forever. But to speed things up, we think this is a valid point to do so. Of course, there are not only bad examples we found. So when you search in Amazon for, when we look at the medias, you find this series, this show on Netflix, and there you have kids dressed normally, like every kid would dress. Each of them standing for a specific letter in those STEM acronyms. So one is taking care of math, one is taking care of engineering and stuff like this, and they're solving problems in this show. And we also find good books. So there are books about women in science. There are books like Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls, where they have more than 100 stories about extraordinary women. And there's also the same for boys. And the last one, it's a very nice one. If you have small kids or a niece around, this is something to consider. So basically, Ruby is searching for the cursor inside the computer, and with a mouse, she's going inside the computer, learns about logic gates and stuff like this. And you can also build a computer with the kids to understand more how it works. There's also good STEM games available, but you have to search really hard for it. So the two things on the left side are unfortunately not available in Europe. We found them in the US, but you find something else in Amazon in Europe, so you can get this and you can try to change at least. And Christmas is right ahead, so if you search for something which is clearly targeting in a good way and not pink, shiny perfume and cosmetics. So let's think about how we can change this and what we thought we should change and how we thought we can change this inside our company. We think if you want to change this, you have to start early. So you have to enable kids. You have to give them an environment where they can play, where they can where they are getting contact with technology, and you need to do this before society kicks in. So basically, you need to do this before the age of 6, 7 years. Kids need to be aware that there is a possibility to do so. We also think that, especially for kids, but also for adults, choose a playful approach to learn something new. So as kids are very motivated to learn new things. And the only thing is, and this is especially good for us, you need to break it down a little bit so they can understand it. And this is what we do every day. So we break down problems into smaller problems as a programmer. And at the end of the day, we have a small problem we can understand. Do this 2 or 3 times more, and then also kids can understand most of the problems. Create a safe environment, environment full of curiosity, full of new things there. Help them to discover and give them old electronics. So this is probably what our parents did, or what we did without asking. We teared apart the old radio and tried to fit it together again. And sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't work. But if you have old computers, give them to open. Let them open them and let them see how they look from the inside. And so just create an environment where they can experiment and try to learn new things. Of course, another possibility. Who of you has kids on its own, on her or his own? A few of you. Who of you brought them to this conference? None of you. So. This is also another way to expose kids to technology and to people working in tech, and also to find role models. You can bring kids to conferences, but of course this means conferences have to change a little bit. When you buy the ticket, ask them if there's a possibility to bring your kids. If there's a room for kids, or if there's something to play with and stuff like this. And the more you ask, the more the conference organizers get aware of this situation, and probably they change in the future. And the next conference might have a special room dedicated for children where they can play, maybe someone watching them while the parents attend the talks. And so this is something you can ask every time you buy a ticket or you submit to a call for papers. And this is what happens already on other conferences. So this tweet is from Trisha G. She works for JetBrains, and she found at GeeCON in London that they identified this problem, and they had a special room for parents taking care of their kids. And one step further, so I think Trisha has very young kids. One step further, this is Sébastien Blanc, and he's working for Red Hat, and he brings it one step further. So he's giving talks with both of his kids on the stage, talking about how they learn programming, what they do with programming things, and this is another way to deal with the situation. Bring your kids to conferences. When we want to understand, so basically talked about this. This is how it started for me. So I disassembled computers. I had to compile my Linux kernel because I want to have some graphics running. And of course, you need to include a module. And that time, that was not this easy. So you start to try something. Sometimes it breaks. So you have to do it all over again. And sometimes it's running and you can move on. So this is another thing. And the thing is, try to be ambitious and try to set goals or try to give the kids goals and ambitious goals they can achieve. So even compiling a Linux kernel is something a 10, 12-year-old can learn if they are eager to learn how this works and if they can experiment. This might also work today. I didn't do this for a long time, so usually you don't have to do this today. Maybe you find other things. When we talk about curiosity, this is also something which is important for us as an adult. And this is what we are doing at our company. We organize twice a year, we organize internal hackathons where we want to enable all our colleagues to think out of the box and where we bring people together from different departments, not only from technology, but also from the business units. And they can let go the product development or the day-to-day development, and they can start thinking different, thinking out of the box, new problems to solve. And they usually find interesting solutions for problems we had for a long time, but no one really wants to take care of because it's not that important to take care of right now. You can also find other companies doing this, and you find on YouTube, you find some videos about this. So if you want to start something like this in your own company, try to find the videos and see what they do. They are blogging about the hackathon, so you can learn how to organize it and how to do so. What we did is, before those hackathons, they're usually in the week. Before those hackathons on a Sunday, we started to organizing hack days for girls. And this is where we invite 30 girls from colleagues, not only from our smaller company, from all over the enterprise. And they usually coming from all over Germany. We invite 30 girls at the age from 7 to 17 to join us and to have one complete day we call hack days for girls, and to let them play around with microcontrollers. I have some here. So later on, if we have some time left, we can play around with them as well. And we teach them how to program, and we start programming with them. And even with the 7-year-old girls, this is working perfectly. So what you also often find is when you go to conferences, there's one day ahead. There's DevOps for kids in Germany. There's JavaLand for kids. So also conferences taking care of this topic and invite schools to the conference and start programming with the kids. What we also did is we talked to people from Google, from Oracle. I met on conferences, and we asked them what are the problems you're seeing, and we got the feedback that a more similar group of kids would be easier to handle for us. And also, it is easier for the kids. So we decided very early to do this only for girls. And this leads to very good cooperation. And what others told us is the moment you have a mixed group, it's as you would expect. The boys are grabbing the keyboard, are doing the stuff. Oh, let me do this. You're doing this wrong. And this is what we want to avoid. So we want to create a safe environment. and we only organize it for girls. And of course, we get the question, why don't you organize? I have 2 boys. Why don't you organize it for boys? I want to bring my son. He's jealous about his sister and stuff like this. And parents ask us all the time. And we found a very simple answer. We will do it, and we will organize it also for boys, maybe for mixed groups, the moment the gender pay gap is closed. So 2069, 2186, somewhere in this point of time. And this is a decision. We are in the office on a Sunday. We invite kids. We take care of the kids. And this is where we just decided to focus on what we think is important. So let's have a look how such a day looks like. And I have to turn it around a little bit. Usually we start at 9 in the morning, and we have a handover from the parents. The parents are not on site during this day, so this is also part of the environment of curiosity and a safe environment. So we don't want to have the parents interfere with the kids, and we usually take over the girls, have a breakfast together, get to know each other. The kids between them get to know each other. We get to know the kids get to know us. And after breakfast, we start usually with a little bit of a warm-up activity. You find them from every youth organization, sort by age. So build a map of Germany, where you're coming from, and place yourself where you're coming from. So you get to know each other. You have to move around a little bit. You have to talk to each other. Where are you from? I'm from there, so I have to move here, and stuff like this. So this is also just a few minutes to start the day. Usually we start with the questions: what is a computer? Where are computers? So they are in cars, in washing machines, in the fridge, in the coffee machine. Nearly everywhere. Of course, in computers, in laptops, in tablets. Who has its own computer is also a good question on this point of time. What do you do with this computer? So getting to know computers and explaining that computers need detailed instructions. And there you can build a reference to cooking recipes, where you also get detailed instructions, what to do, when to do. And this gets a very quick learning curve to programming and why you have to be so explicit. Then we usually start with Scratch. Scratch is developed by the MIT, and we will see it later how it works. And we give them some time to play around with it and start understanding how it works. After each block, we put in, as developers, we are used to it. If you are working in an agile environment, we put in a short retrospective. So we ask what was good, where did you need help, who helped you, and who did you help. And then we are already at lunchtime. After lunch, this is very important, we think, plan some outside activities. I know every one of us is sitting in front of the computer all day long, but you probably don't want to do this with kids. So we think it's very important to think about what can you do for half an hour outside, take everyone outside and play with them on the ground next to the office and let them run around so they are at least moving something. After this break, we start introducing those small microcontrollers. And when I put it on, you see takes some time, but you see some lights going down. So there is an LED matrix. You probably heard the sound. So there's a speaker on it. We introduce all those sensors and stuff this thing have. And then, of course, we start programming those microcontrollers. We start with easy things. So program the LED, let it shine in a different color and stuff like this. Put your name on the screen so you can have the letters go through. And later on, you can even write your own game. And this, what you saw here, is a very small version of asteroids. So the things are dropping down, and you can use buttons to move it around. So you can program games with this. And in the end, we have another retrospective talking about the Calliope and the microcontrollers, and play the games you wrote, start writing other games, and in the end of the day, parents arrive, the girls can present what they did, what they programmed, and can be proud of what they achieved during the day. This talk is about enabling you to do the same. So this is our basic idea. So we want to tell you why we did it. I told you what we do and how this day looks like. And I want to tell you, of course, what you need to prepare, what you need to do to get buy-in from your company or from your local Java user group. It's easier if you can spend working time on organizing this. If you can ask colleagues to join you. So if you have 30 kids on site, you need about 10, 15 adults taking care of those kids. And also members of your JAG can act as mentors to the kids and can help you to introduce them to programming. And if you have 15 people on site, you can build pairs and programming pairs, and then you have one mentor for this. And the important thing is we usually take care of having 10 to 15 adults there, and usually we are only about 3 to 4 men in there. So we also want to provide a good role model, and we invite female programmers to join us here as a mentor, to act as a role model to the girls. If you have sponsors in your Java user group, or if you do this with your company, it's getting easier if you can buy some hardware. So what we did is we bought 15 Raspberry Pis to have a computer for the girls. We bought 15 of those microcontrollers. You need a keyboard, you need some internet access and stuff like this. So if you get sponsoring for this, this is getting easier. The next step is to get it public. Talk to the parents, invite the company, invite the Java user group to send their kids and to let them register for this event. And what we saw is what helps parents, and maybe those of you who have kids feel the same, but we got feedback that keeping the parents in a very tight loop and explain everything you're doing, explain what you're planning for the day. If there's new information available, send it out to the parents. We got the feedback. This was overwhelming. We got so much information. We felt so safe. And from the school, we just get one paper. We have to sign it, and that's all information we get. So if you keep them in the loop, they are usually happy and are grateful for getting more information about this day. So provide everything you can and provide enough information to the parents. When we talk about the outside activities, think about things you can do with the girls running around. So they should moving. You can have games, hide and seek and stuff like this. Tag you can do by color, by age, something like this. You can have several other games. You should have prepared at least 3 of them, so you can fill half an hour running around. And the important thing is, and this is a little bit the tricky part, try to get everybody outside. And this is usually the younger ones are eager to go outside. So up to the age of 12, they will blindly follow and say, cool, we're going outside, running around, playing outside. But as soon as it comes to teens, they usually say, oh, I don't want to go outside. I just want to sit here, do an Insta story or something like this. So try to get everyone outside and play together. So also the older girls should run around and have some fun outside. You have to take care of some legal stuff, so you need to get the. First, we start with a formal registration where we provide the information. We also get the approval from the parents, so we get a signed document back where we get the approval to have internet access for the girls, where we also have the approval to go outside and play around. The other thing is you can do in this registration ask for special needs. So if there's medical needs for the girls, or if they are on a special diet they need to follow, ask this and have this information available all the time. So when you go to lunch, you should know who should not eat this or that, who's allergic to nuts and stuff like this. And of course, we are in Europe, and there's something called the GDPR. And who of you worked in the last year on getting the GDPR stuff running in your company? A few of you. So this also applies here, and this is something you have to take into account. You have to completely make sure that you get the allowance and the things with the data protection right also from the parents, especially if you want to take pictures of the kids. And you need to do this even if you want to provide the pictures back only to the parents themselves. So you don't publish them on the internet, you don't publish a video on YouTube, you don't do talks like this. You just want to provide the pictures to all parents back. You need the GDPR things up and running. In the end, you see a repository on GitHub, and we are currently working with our lawyers to get a German and an English version of those documents, which is free of our company, and we want to provide under an open source license. So you can use all those stuff, all those forms we use to register, and also the GDPR stuff from our lawyers we will provide in the future. But this is work in progress, and as you can imagine, the big company in the background talking to the lawyers and stuff like this needs some time. So a few minutes left. Let's talk about development. And I see it's only a few minutes, so I have to hurry a little bit. What hardware do we use? You already saw this Calliope. This is a microcontroller board. You have an LED matrix on it. You have a speaker on there. There's a movement sensor on it. There's LED where you can change the color. And also those golden rings act as actors, and you can touch them, and they are more buttons. And you see the blue and the red one. These are also buttons on the device. There's something quite similar, and it's programmed the same way. It looks a little bit different, but it's completely the same way of programming. This is from the BBC in the UK, and this is called the BBC Microbit. And this is also extensionable, so you can use this thing on the ground and put it into another device, and then you can build robots with it and stuff like this. And if you get enough buy-in from your company and you get some money from your company, buy one or two of those Lego Mindstorms robots, and they are fun to build on the evening before the event, and they are fun to use during the event, but they are quite expensive, so this is something where you definitely need a sponsor. When we talk about programming, the very young ones can start with Scratch Junior, and you see programming happens here by putting slices together, puzzle pieces together, and you have loops in there, and you don't even need to be able to read. So this is something where you can start very early with. This is what we usually do put on a tablet, and this is available for the 7-8-year-old kids, where they can just experiment with. The cat can go around, you can record noises or your own voice, and you can create a story with it. A little bit further, and I hope you can read this, but the slides will be available in the future. There you also can program the way we all program. So when I ask you what's happening in this program, you probably would understand very easily. And but the difference is this is something where the kids at least need to read some words. This is available in many languages, so you find it at scratchmit.edu. And according to your browser language, this is working in many languages. It still teaches you all you need to code, so you have loops in there, you have conditions in there. Everything else you probably need. You can create games, stories, and way more things. And the only tricky part is sometimes the website is a little bit slow if you're working on a Raspberry Pi. So if you have more power on your device, this might be useful. What can you do with those things? So usually what we do is we start with very simple things. Put your name on it. So as I said, there's a display in here where the letters can scroll through. So just print your name. Blink, let the lights blink, change colors and stuff like this. The more advanced thing is there's a temperature sensor on it, and you can measure the room temperature or the temperature in the fridge, and you can display the temperature, and so you get a connection to the real life. You can also, there's a microphone on it, you can do noise detection for classrooms. If it's getting too loud, then let it blink red. You can use two of them to emulate traffic lights so they can work together by Bluetooth. And you can say, okay, if this one is red, then you can turn this one green. And you can play games with it. You already saw, and you later can see the simple asteroids game on this one. You can also build something like a hot potato where a countdown starts. You throw this thing around. They are very resilient, and in a random number of seconds, it somehow drops or explodes, makes a noise, and this person is out of the game, and you start in the next round. So there's fun things to do with those. How does it look like if you program the Calliope? So you already saw some of the Scratch things. The Calliope looks very, very similar, and also the BBC Microbit is programmed the same way. And this is an editor where you can program the thing like this. So you need to move the blocks; they fit together, and you get your program. But in the end, there's JavaScript beside it, so you can switch back and forth between JavaScript and the block programming language. And you can this way you can also make the connection to a more let's say a more real life programming language. So the block programming is also real life programming, but nothing we would use. But this way you can also move to programming languages we all know, and you see what does it stand for, and how does it work together. And if you change something on one side, the other side changes as well, and you can switch back and forth with those things. So probably this is the slide you can photograph. We will link the slides there. We will provide the documents we have written with our lawyers, but this needs some time. But we already provide the source code for the things we were talking about there, so you can just download it, give it a try on your computer. There are simulators for most of the things, so you don't need the hardware right away. You can just start working with it and use the simulators. That's from my side. There's only 1 minute for questions, so I'm still working on getting this done. Are there any questions in the audience? Thanks from my side for being here so early and listening all the time. And are there questions? No questions? Then thank you from my side. I will be around, so if you have questions, you can just come forward, and you can also have a look at those. And we can probably also meet outside. Thank you very much.